Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FI Investment Group and your host of Washington Calling, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today, we're fortunate to have a distinguished guest. Her name is Baroness Jan Royall. She's the principal of Somerville College, Oxford University. She has had a distinguished career in politics, serving as the leader of the House of Lords. She's also associated with many charities and voluntary organizations. Welcome to our show, Jan. Good to see you. Thank you very much for coming to our show.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
So, Jan, Somerville College houses the Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development.
It does.
Please tell our global audience the goals, objectives, mission, and vision of the center. And also, if you can, share for our global audience the success stories of the centers in developing India's talent, and how did this center will help shape the next century of India's growth.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. It's very good to see you and to see your massive audience. So the Oxford India Centre for Sustainable Development was founded in 2013, and it's grown like topsy in its influence in this country and in India and indeed throughout the world. It was founded with a historic partnership between the India Centre and the Indian government, which we are very proud of, and it's the only partnership like that in the UK. Ratan Tata is our patron, and we've got fantastic supporters like Gopal Subramaniam. We have a partnership with UPL, with whom we're working on food sustainability, and we have got a very eminent advisory panel, which includes people like Feroza Godrich. And Frank, we would love you to join our advisory panel in due course.
Okay, we will do that. Debbie has a lot of interest in it, so we will do that.
Okay, so maybe Debbie, that would just be such an honor for us. So the centre brings together different academic disciplines and approaches, and we address a core set of sustainability challenges in India, things like environmental sustainability, sustainable cities, healthcare innovation, food and water security, and clean energy. And we've got this amazing young woman, Dr. Radhika Khosla, who is the research director. And for example, her interdisciplinary research examines how cities in transition manage the tensions of meeting the growing energy needs for development whilst protecting the local and global environment. And we only have to look at the facts to see how important this research is, because India's urban population is expected to double by 2050. So we can see that it's going to have the largest future growth in energy demand. And unless we do something about making that demand more sustainable, then India, but the whole world, is going to suffer. So our research is really, really pertinent to the future of the world. And Radhika also leads a team of research working on the future of cooling at the Oxford Martin Centre, because air conditioners, as you will know, and electric fans to stay cool account for nearly 20% of the total electricity used in buildings around the world. So that research is hugely, hugely important. So there's all the work on energy and climate change, and then we do lots of work on healthcare.
Wow.
So we've got a fabulous young man again. He's called Dr. Siddharth Arora, and he's working on telemedicine. So one of the things that he's done is to produce an app for the telephone, which enables people to diagnose Parkinson's disease, to trace it, to monitor its symptoms, and to work with the patients as they go on their Parkinson's journey. And it's so important now, as you will understand, at a time of COVID, when people don't want to go into hospital, they want to be monitored at a distance. And in India, for example, where people are living a long way from hospitals, it's fantastically important.
Very nice. Can you, Jan, shine a bright lights on Somerville College's deep connection and engagement and the link with India? How far does this connection go? As I understand, the Prime Minister Gandhi and Prime Minister Singh are the graduates of the Oxford University. And your link with India goes back to 1889.
It does indeed.
With the arrival of Cornelia Sorabji. So
yep.
Oxford is a gateway to India.
Oxford is the gateway to India. And I would say that Somerville College and the Oxford India Centre is absolutely the gateway into India. So Cornelia Sorabji, most extraordinary young woman, came here in 1889. And she was the first woman ever to study law at Oxford University. And she was at Somerville. She was the first woman to study law at Bombay University, the first woman graduate there as well. And she came to Somerville thanks to a scholarship which was funded by many people, including Florence Nightingale. Mm-hmm. She was not given a scholarship by the government of India because she was a woman. So they had to find money from elsewhere. So Cornelia was the first one. And then we had two daughters of the Maharaja Sadulip Singh. They were here in the early 1890s. And then, as you said, Frank, Indira Gandhi, your former Prime Minister, was here in, I think it was 1937, but she didn't finish her degree here because of ill health. But of course, she was our one Prime Minister who came to Somerville, the other one being Margaret Thatcher, who came here in 1943, both of whom one might say were rather controversial in their own way. But we're very proud that they came here.
Very good. How do you think that both the United Kingdom and India can derive benefits from the Oxford India Centre for Sustainable Development? It seems to me it's a unique in Oxford India Partnership, and it is a leading center for the study of India. Am I correct to assume that?
You are absolutely correct to assume that. And I think that in the world as it is at the moment, the more we can build bridges between our countries, the better. And I think that both of our countries will benefit from the sharing of research, the sharing of ideas and knowledge between the University of Oxford and research institutions in India, but also between both of our countries. And we're building a research community of people across our two countries working on the same core set of problems and looking for common solutions to common problems. And now if we look to next year, when we've got the COP, which will take place in Glasgow, the Oxford India Centre, is working very closely with both the Foreign Office here and the Government of India on climate change, looking at measures that we can progress together in terms of development and climate mitigation, which the outcomes of which will benefit the whole world. And Dr. Radhika Khosla, whom I mentioned earlier, is working very closely on the COP with the British government and the Indian government.
So Jan, tell us about the center's goal for the future. As I understand, and I did a little bit of a research, the center will create a new opportunity for the best and brightest students from India to pursue their studies in sustainable development. Am I correct also?
You are correct, because at the University of Oxford, there are now around 24,000 students, but only about 350 of those are Indians.
Oh.
And that's a great shame. And of course, there are far, far more Chinese and people of other nationalities. So what we want to do is encourage more excellent Indian students to come to Oxford and specifically to our centre. One reason that Indian students don't come to Oxford is essentially because they can't afford it. They don't have the money. And so I know that you've got good universities in India, but Oxford is the best university in the world for the 5th year running, and we want them to have the opportunity to come and study here. So we want to find more talented students and enable them to come here because we want there to be kind of brain gain for India. So the students who come here, when they're interviewed, one of the things we say to them is, you know, when you've completed your excellent research, we hope that you're going to go back to India and give back to India, because we think that that is really important. We want you to be leaders in your research in India, and that's what's happening. all of the students who have been at the Oxford India Centre to date have all gone back, and they're all giving back to India in various ways.
That's not the case in the United States. Most of the people who come to the United States, they stay here. As you know, I'm the prime example of that.
I know.
I achieved the American dream because I crossed the Atlantic Ocean. And I believe in America, an American dream. And I believe in America's character, its values, its democracy, its conscience.
Which is fantastic. And we have many Indians who stay in the UK, and we welcome them and we want that. But we also think that we want to benefit India. And so the research, we want them to go back.
That's very well said. I want to turn the conversation to the situation that we're in, which is the vaccine and relief during the pandemic. As I understand, the Oxford is involved with in work related to the vaccine and relief during the pandemic. Please tell us about the Oxford's efforts in COVID-19 vaccine. As I understand, the global clinical trial of COVID-19 is resumed after a pause, as I understand also. And you're doing what do you think the vaccine will be available? Because we need to get it as quickly as possible.
We do indeed. And so we've got this wonderful vaccine team, which is led by an amazing woman called Professor Sarah Gilbert. And they've been working at extraordinary speed to try to ensure that we get the vaccine as soon as possible. And we're now in the final phase of the trials, which are called the phase 3 of the trials, which assesses how the vaccine works against a large number of people above the age of 18. And those trials are taking place in US, UK, but also in India, South Africa, Brazil, and Japan. And well, I mean, we don't know when we will have the results of the trial, but it is hoped that it will be around the end of the year. But, you know.
End of this year? End of this year?
Well, the end of this year, we might have the results of the trial, you know, God willing that it is a successful trial. But then, of course, we've got to go into production. Right. And Oxford University's got a brilliant agreement with AstraZeneca. Mm-hmm. It's a non-for-profit agreement. Yeah. So they will, which is fabulous. And that will be a real game changer for the world. So let's keep our toes and fingers crossed.
Do you think some of the people from the Oxford India Centers is also involved in this, the scientists especially in making this happen in terms of producing the vaccine, which is important to the mankind?
Well, the Oxford India Centre is not actually involved in the production of a vaccine, but they are involved in lots of other COVID-related research. For example, Dr. Anant Jani, who's a research affiliate, he's part of an effort to monitor and track COVID-19 cases in the UK. And another one of our affiliates, Dr. Vikrant Nagaraja, I think that's his name, he was part of a team of engineers, scientists at the University of Oxford and King's College London, which is developing a rapidly deployable ventilator for COVID-19 patients. And of course, that's important here, it's important throughout the world. So there are many people working on COVID-related research from the Oxford India Centre.
So they're doing their share?
Oh, they're doing their share, including Siddharth, who I mentioned earlier, who's doing some work which ensures that people can rapidly sort of move in and out of hospital. So we are there, we're absolutely on the ground working.
I want to talk a little bit about, Jan, in terms of your engagement with politics. I'm politically engaged because politics creates a common cause. And politics is important to all of us. And you have been the leader of the House of Lords, and you have had a very distinguished career as a politician. You also very passionate about Europe. How do you feel about the impact of Brexit on United Kingdom and Europe?
I feel immense sadness, deep concern, and anxiety. From a UK perspective, I mean, it could lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom, which would be a disaster. And there's a lot of focus upon trade between the UK and the European Union and the rest of the world. But for me, it's much more than about trade. It's about being part of a powerful bloc in the world, because we need global governance, we need global leaders, and the UK is cutting itself adrift from a wonderful, wonderful enterprise, the European Union, because it thinks it can survive all alone in this world. And I think that because so many of the global challenges that we're facing don't respect borders, so it's so important to be part of a bloc. There's climate change, there's international terrorism, there's migration, there's dominance by unaccountable companies. So we need to be working together. I think it's also about peace and prosperity.
Very well said. And I share with you views and your values, because we need, we do not need to be isolated. We need to work together, because we have a shared goals and shared responsibility and shared sacrifice. So it's important for all of us to make sure we get the best and the brightest of all in terms of their leadership, in terms of their passion, their commitment. So I am with you 100% on that. Good. Before we close our conversation, is there anything else that I have not talked about it that you want to share with the audience?
No, I would cheekily like to say how important the Oxford India Centre is in breaking down barriers, in ensuring that there's a good relationship between the UK and India, that the research that we're doing is going to make a profound difference to the world, to our two countries and to the world. But this depends to a larger extent on things like scholarships. So I would urge anybody to look at the wonderful work our scholars are doing and to think how they might help them. Because, you know, if we can get more Indian young people coming to do research in this country, then both of our countries are going to flourish even more than they would without it.
Can you, if somebody is watching in India and around the world, and they're students, for example, the younger generation, they're millennials, and they want to come to Oxford, what they need to do to contact the people to go to the Oxford?
Well, they have to apply to Oxford University in the first place. But if they are interested, if they send me an email, principal@some.ox.ac.uk, then we will send them information.
That's very well said. Thank you very much, Jan, for your time. And thank you for watching. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.